Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Rashi from Radar Opus. And for today's webinar, we have with us Dr. Prem Sharma. Dr. Prem Sharma is a well known name in the industry. He is consultant homeopathic physician. He has been practicing for the past 35 years in Delhi. Welcome, sir. So, introducing him, I would like to say he's a senior member and lead speaker of the Segal School, revolutionized homeopathy, and he has delivered lectures not only in India but also abroad. He has been treating several types of chronic cases and very complicated cases. He has been dealing with incurable cases, with autoimmune cases, and the most challenging cases through homeopathy. In today's webinar, uh, he will teach us how to reach. Sorry for the interruption. So in today's webinar, Sir will be teaching us how to reach case, how to do case analysis, how to do evaluation of symptoms, how to make totality, and a lot more about dealing successfully with such challenging cases. Over to you, sir.
Very good morning, everyone. Hello. Today, we are going to have this classrooms webinar on the art of converting the patient's information into the rubrics. Right. First of all, I would like to tell you something about the Segal's method. That I have been doing Segal's method practice for the last more than 28 years, right? And have been working with Sehgal brothers and Dr. Sehgal. The prerequisite of the formation of the mind rubric, first we have to go into the details of the case taking, and we have to know about everything about the patient, right? So, what is the specialty of Dr. Segal's school? It is it deals only with the mind section of the patient, right, or the homeopathy, you can say. While selecting the remedy, we deal only with the mental sections. We deal only with the mind of the patient, how he perceives his sickness, and what is the impression of the sickness on the mind of the patient. That is what we have to take into consideration, right? Exclusively, we use the mental symptoms, and on the basis of that, we make the totality, we make the rubrics, we proceed into the case, and thus select this minimum and have the wonderful results. I'm going to describe about how to form the rubrics, right, with a case, live case. So we shall run with both at simultaneously, theoretical and the practical part. First, I will deal with the theoretical part, that what we need to form a rubric, what are the prerequisite information which we need for the formation of the rubrics, right? So the first event which we have with the patient in our clinic or anywhere else, right, is the case taking, right? Case taking is the very, very important step, right? For any sort of method, for any homeopathic prescribing, right? Unless we know about the patient, you can't prescribe the right remedy. So is the case with the Segal school. We first know about the patient. There are a few steps that we have to keep in our mind while taking the case. Right? So in case taking, we give the full opportunity to the patient to speak about his problem, how he perceives his problem, how he has the impression on his mind about the sickness, any situation, or the, you can say, what is making him the sick, or what is going in the mind of the patient. So give the full opportunity to the patient to speak out, right? We don't try to fit the patient into any sort of frame or with a preconceived idea, or we do not put the unnecessary questions. First, we should listen to the patient, and we should give him the full opportunity that what is the problem. Because when a patient approaches any doctor, he has a problem in his mind, he has a question in his mind, right, of what he seeks a solution from the doctor, right? So we might give him the full time to express himself, that what is the actually problem he has, of what he is seeking the solution from us, right? So full time should be given to the patient, and then we should collect the information given by the patient, right? What happens previously when we were practicing the homeopathy, right, we have to extract the mental symptoms from the patient, right? In Segal's method, it is really a very easy method to extract the mental symptom. We need not to ask the mental symptoms, how do you feel, or do you take this and that. When a patient comes to us, right, he start describing his problem, right? Majority of the time, right, the way he states his problem, the information he gives, right, they are always coupled with the emotional aspect. They are stated, this is not just the dry information, right? It always carries the emotions, right? So we have to note about the how the patient present his problem. That is the most important point, right? We should give him the full time to express himself, and the way he expresses, really it gives us a lot of clues, a lot of mental symptoms, a lot of emotions, and that is what we shall try to see in a case. Let us proceed further. For example, many patients do come, they state their problem very laughingly. Some states their problem with the crying, some states with lamenting and mourning, and so on. Number of emotions are there. The patient has is it his own emotion, his own conception, his own perception about his sickness. So he has his own way, right? Every patient is a unique experience, right? Every patient is an individual. He is not, he may or may not be the past experience, right, like our past experience. He is a unique case, so we have to see what is the uniqueness of the patient at the moment in our hand. Getting my point? So what it will give us, it is going to give us, right, we have to listen very carefully to the patient, what he says. It is a small formula given by Dr. Segal, Dr. Emmer Segal, that how he states his problem. What he says carries a lot of information, and how he says carries the emotions, right? As I told you earlier, that some may state laughingly, some may state by crying, some may lament, or so on, right? So how he states is very important point. And next point is what he does and how he does. What he does gives us the information, and how he does is the emotional part, right? So whenever a patient or any person approaches us for the help, right, he is going to do this at least, right? He is going to state his problem, he is going to tell his problem, right? But only thing we have to need to note is or to observe is how he says and how he does. This how part is very important in the case taking, right? And what it is going to give us in a very short while, in a very short time, you will say, without consuming much of the time, we shall be able to reach the present of the patient, right, with which he comes to us. And the present is not only the problem, right? It is not, it is a just an information, right? And what we have to see is that is the persistence of the problem, what is persistent and what is the predominant in the case, right? So that is what we have to observe. So this is the formula basically when you take any case, right? These are the few things that we have to always keep in our mind so as to deal with the patient, whatever kind of disease he may be suffering from, wherever he may be from, no problem, right? So we have to note this in our method. These few things are very, very important. We have to explore the present, which persist and predominate. So, what are the other things we require to get or to extract his present, which persist and predominate? Is few things are there. That is, it requires the alertness and the senses should be alert. While taking the case, the physician should be very alert, right? Dr. Sehgal used to say that whenever a patient comes in touch with you, all our senses, that is eyes, your ears, your sense of touch, right? Everything, right? Your mind should be fully at the patient. It should be fully alert and might be noting everything of the patient, what he says and how he says, as we said in the earlier slide. So alertness, what it will give us, we shall come to know about the patient in few minutes what he is trying to say, right? Another point is the focus. We have to be very focused at the moment on our patient, right? We have to need or we have to decipher whatever the signals he has been giving, why his body language, why his language, why the other emotions, all and everything is to be very observantly has to keep in our mind. Next, very less interruptions. So let the patient speak out. Let the patient come out whatever he has in the mind. We need not to just frame him into a data, right? Because every patient is a unique experience. Many times I have seen the patient do come with a physical problem, but they never speak of. They never speak of their physical problem, how where they came, right? Many times even you may have seen. So let the patient say what he want to say. So we should not interrupt. Without interrupting, let the patient proceeds, right? The very next point is the exact and correct information to be spotted. So when the patient is giving us the information about his sickness, about his disease or his problem, we might note it exactly, right? And very correctly. And we have to note it, right? In the way the patient prescribes, the patient describes, right? The patient perspective is very important. It is not our mind. Our mind should not come into the play while taking the case. It is only the patient and the patient. Whatever he says hardly matters. He may be nonsense sometimes. He may be abusive. He may be doing anything, right? But we have to note it as it is, right? So as to spot the right information. So be very alert, be very focused, and there shouldn't be any interruptions to the patient. So the way information comes, we have to keep on noting it. That the next point is the correct observation. What is the observation? Observation is the survey of the present, right? Whatever is going on in your clinic or in the first encounter with the patient or whatever you doing maybe on the telephone, right? So whatever is going on very correctly. Correct means it should convey the patient sense. It should convey what does the patient means, right? Why he does like that, why he says like that. It is always the patient context that we have to take into consideration. So our observation might be very correct. Hardly there are no chances of tempering the observation, right? Whether we understand it or we do not understand it. So when we do all these things, this is going to give us the very, very important aspect of the case, that is present, which persist and predominant. And this is something upon which the whole process of formation of the rubric or formation of the totality of symptom is going to depend upon. So That is what we need to prescribe upon. So it is a very, very important step, because the following step depends upon the accuracy of this case taking. The more accurate is the case taking, the more we are exact to know the feeling of the patient, more accurate will be the following steps. Right? So the ultimately, in case we need any question, right, to put the patient, right, it should be only interposed if really required, to clarify the information when there is some contradiction is there, or if something is left over in between. So we have, because we have to reach at the right information. So what is actually going in the mind of the patient, sometimes we may need to put some questions, right? The bottom line is to know the perception of the patient about his sickness, situation, and problem. Right. So, what is going in the patient mind, right? Actually, the mind is directly connected, directly in association with the vital principle, the center, right? So whatever is going at the center is same going in the mind, right? So mind is something which depicts the center, which represent the center. So, to know the center, we have to read the mind. We have to know the mind, right? And this should be very correct, very, very accurate. So, how that situation, how that sickness, how that problem has affected the center will be come out, will be signaled out, you can say, by the patient in the form of sign and symptoms, which are to be noted very, very accurately. So the bottom line is to know the patient in his context, right? Next is, which will give us the insight into the case, right? So we need only to go into the case to the deepest level, right? So these are the few points, if we keep in our mind, we have to we can reach the center, we can take grasp of the center, we can just come to know everything about the vital principle, right? For which is most mandatory to know, so as to prescribe the homeopathic simillimum. So let us listen to a case, right? We shall try to see everything very practically, right? In a case, how all these things are to be applied in our day-to-day practice, right? So it is a case of rheumatoid arthritis, which is an autoimmune disorder, right? This patient is my old patient. She used to come to me many years back, 5, 6 years back, right? She was my patient, and after that, she was fine. And then COVID was there. Now she approached me few months back once again with the problem of rheumatoid arthritis, right? So actually, she was so down with the problem, she was unable to come to me. So she talked to me on the telephone. A small history is there. Nowadays everybody is very health conscious, people do get their periodical checkup, so she did, and she found that a lot of deficiency in iron deficiency, vitamin D deficiency, vitamin B12 deficiency, and so on. And she went to a physician, and she was given the medicines, the supplements, and some medicines were given, and she was taking for it for a few days. What happened, after taking that medication, she started having pains all over the body, in every joint, in every bigger and the smaller joints. She was down like anything, right? So that rheumatoid arthritis took grasp of that patient, right? She was confined to bed and she was unable to come to me, and this was first time told to me on the telephone, and then I prescribed him a medicine. Then bit of result was there, but again she was down with the very severe pains, She was confined to bed. She was unable to move. You will listen to the patient. I am going to play the audio, so try to listen. They who do not know the Hindi can see the subtitles. It is translated in the English, so let us listen to the patient what she says. So there are few small audios. Please listen very carefully and be very focused on the audio. So let us be, because we have to select a minimum. Let us listen to the audio.
हेलो हेलो हाँ जी हाँ नमस्ते डॉक्टर साहब नमस्कार मैं बोलती हूँ सुनीता हाँ जी बोलिए डॉक्टर साहब मेरे तो कल से बहुत ज्यादा हालत खराब हो रही है उठा ही नहीं जा रहा मेरा तो बिस्तर में से सारे पूरे शरीर में ऐसी कोई जगह नहीं जहाँ दर्द ना हो सारे मेरे जॉइंट हर जगह बिल्कुल भी नहीं उठ पा रही बिस्तर में थोड़ा सा इंतजार करो अभी थोड़ा टाइम तो लगेगा है ना थोड़ा वेट करेंगे अभी जो दवाई दी आपको वो लो अभी ठीक है चाहे एक डोज एक्स्ट्रा ले लो मैंने तो पूरी रात सोई नहीं रोती रही हूँ तो मैंने तो वही रात में खाई है दवाइयाँ रात को भी मैंने एक्स्ट्रा दो दे हेलो हेलो हाँ नमस्ते डॉक्टर साहब नमस्ते हाँ जी हाँ डॉक्टर साहब मेरे को बहुत ज्यादा दिक्कत हो रही है मैं इसलिए आ भी नहीं पाई अगर बिस्तर में मैं लेट रही हूँ तो मैं करवट भी नहीं ले सकती लेटे लेटे पूरा शरीर जाम हो रखा है घुटने और ये कंधों के यहाँ से सर के यहाँ से कान के यहाँ से पूरे सर से नसें खिंची पड़ी है मेरी आंखों में लाल लाल हो रही हैं और ये घुटने पैरों के जो नीचे गट्टे उंगलियां दोनों पैरों में स्वेलिंग कंधे मतलब जितने भी सारे जॉइंट कंधे वंधे कोहनियां कलाइयां सब में बहुत ज्यादा दिक्कत है और शाम होते होते तो पूरा शरीर में ऐसा हो जाता है जैसे मेरा बुखार चढ़ गया है पूरा बहुत मतलब दिक्कत हो जाती है जैसे अभी उठी हूँ ना सवेरे तो बड़ी मुश्किल से उठी हूँ धीरे धीरे वॉशरूम गई हूँ मतलब शाम जैसे जैसे शाम होती जाएगी ना तो और ज्यादा दिक्कत बढ़ती चली जाती है पूरा पूरा बॉडी में ऐसा हो जाएगा जैसे मुझे बुखार भी चढ़ गया और रात भर नहीं सोती रोती रहती हूँ पूरी रात बैठ के आज वैसे जो कल हालत थी और जैसे जिस दिन दवाई लेकर गए थे उस दिन जो हालत बड़ी थी उसके बाद आज की हालत जो जिस दिन आपके पास दवाई लेने आई थी उस दिन तो मेरे को इतनी दिक्कत नहीं थी क्योंकि मेरे को उन दवाइयों का असर था जो मैं पहले खा रही थी तो उस दिन तो मेरे को इतनी दिक्कत नहीं थी उसके बाद जब आपसे दवाई लेके अगले दिन तो पूरी बिस्तर में गिर गई थी आज मैं मेरे को समझ लो 100 के अंदर सिर्फ 5% 95% प्रॉब्लम है 5% थोड़ा वो दिखा है मुझे सिर्फ आज अच्छा कि जैसे मतलब थोड़ा सा वॉशरूम जा पा रही हूँ लेकिन मेरा मतलब अभी प्रॉब्लम सारी सेम हो रही है बहुत दिक्कत हो रही है अच्छा हाँ खाना दवाइयाँ हाँ जी अभी नाश्ता करा है चक्कर आज कैसे नहीं चक्कर तो नहीं आ रहे बिल्कुल भी अच्छा और कोई इस दौरान कोई परेशानी हुई नहीं भाई इस टाइम तो भाई यही सारी दिक्कतें हो रही हैं वही जो पहले होती थी गांठें निकल रही हैं गांठें कलाइयों में स्वेलिंग हाथों के पैरों के गट्टे पैरों की उंगलियां ये सब पूरा ये दर्द है सारे शरीर के अंदर जी और ये गले के गर्दन के यहाँ से मेरी गर्दन नहीं मुड़ रही बिल्कुल भी ऐसे बस सीधा देख पा रही पूरी नसें सीधा बहुत दर्द हो रही है सारी गर्दन की कब पूरे ऐसे ये सारी बहुत प्रॉब्लम है चलो कोई नहीं मैं थोड़ी और दवाई करके भेजता हूँ और ये जो दवाई आपने मंडे तक की दी थी वो सारी मैंने खा ली एक्स्ट्रा करके वो सब खत्म हो चुकी हैं ठीक है कोई नहीं ठीक है डॉक्टर साहब
Actually, what happened? I was giving her the medicine, but the expected result was not there. No doubt, she is stating that 5% amelioration is there, but that is not something very very satisfactory after giving the similimum, right? It should be even more than that, right? She has been crying at the night. She is unable to sleep. She has been facing all the sufferings, right? But nothing is there, like she is coming out, right? Next day I again received a phone call. Now I was clear that the medicine I am giving, that it is not the minimum. So something more deeper is required. So what is that? We shall listen to this audio. This is very, very important, and you will feel, and you will you will come to know that how deep we have to go, right, in a case. Yes, listen to this audio. Yes.
हेलो। हाँ जी डॉक्टर साहब। अच्छा एक बात बताओ, जैसे ये शनिवार से दोबारा आपको इतनी ज्यादा तकलीफ हुई है जी, क्या टेंशन थी? टेंशन तो बहुत बड़ी है। क्या है बताओ मुझे। पिछले शुक्रवार को तबीयत खराब हुई, पिछले शनिवार इतवार को हुई थी। तो पिछले शुक्रवार को मेरी बड़ी बहू का मिसकैरेज हो गया था, आपको बताया था। इस शुक्रवार को मेरी छोटी बहू का मिसकैरेज हो गया था। अच्छा। दोनों का एक साथ हो गया। बहुत परेशान है हम। अच्छा। तो यही टेंशन बहुत बड़ी हो गई थी, यही सोच सोच के मैं पूरी रात सो भी नहीं पाती। मेरे दिमाग में यही बातें चलती रहती है कि क्या होगा, कैसे होगा। किसी को कोई दिखाओ तो कोई कुछ कहता है, कोई कुछ कहता है, क्योंकि बड़ी वाली बहू के तो 3 मिसकैरेज हो गए हैं। अच्छा। और छोटी नहीं आई थी, उसका पहला हुआ, तो बच्चे ही नहीं हो पा रहे। तो मैं बड़ी दिक्कत में थी, तो ये सोचती रहती हूँ मतलब कैसे होगा, ये क्या होगा। पूरी रात भी नहीं सोई, दिमाग चल रहा है मेरा। तो यही टेंशन बस इसी की ज्यादा है। अच्छा। तो मतलब इन सब चीजों को लेकर दिमाग में क्या चलता है, क्या सोच चलती रहती है? यही चल रहा है कि मेरा परिवार कैसे बढ़ेगा। किसी कोई कुछ कहता है किसी ने कुछ करा रखा है, किसी ने परिवार रोक रखा है। मेरा दिमाग चल रहा है बहुत ज्यादा। रात में रोती रही हूँ, दिमाग में उल्टी सीधी बातें चलती रहती है। क्या क्या जैसे? वही जो बताया आपको। कोई नहीं, बोल के बताओ अब क्या क्या चलता है दिमाग में। इतना जबत कर यही बस, मतलब कि मेरा परिवार कैसे बढ़ेगा अगर किसी ने कुछ कर दिया होगा तो हमारा परिवार वहीं का वहीं रुका हुआ है। तो बड़ी बहू की शादी को इतना टाइम हो गया, जितनी बार मिसकैरेज होता है। छोटी वाली का हुआ था अभी पहले, फर्स्ट टाइम उसका भी यही हो गया। तो बस मतलब क्या, हमने तो कभी किसी का कुछ बुरा नहीं किया, हमारे साथ ऐसा तो होता, यही सब कुछ। मतलब रात भर उल्टे सीधे मतलब दिमाग चलता रहता है। वही ध्यान आते रहते हैं। हाँ वही सब। वो बात दिमाग से निकलती नहीं है। निकल बड़ी हो के साथ हुआ तब तो इतना ध्यान भी नहीं दिया। कुछ गलती हुआ जैसे भी हुआ, चीज वही उसके साथ हुई तो मतलब फिर ये मतलब सोचने पे मजबूर हो गए कि ये ऐसा क्यों हो रहा है। मतलब कुछ तो या तो हमसे कहीं गलती हो रही है, या सच में जो लोग ने कुछ करा दिया है, या सच में वो चीज है। क्या है, कहाँ जाऊं, मैं तो किसी को जानती भी नहीं, ऐसे किसके पास जाऊं, कहाँ जाऊं। दिमाग पूरी रात चलता रहता है। अच्छा। जैसे ये दूसरी बहू का हुआ तभी दूसरे दिन ही आपका फिर प्रॉब्लम बढ़ गया है? बहुत ज्यादा, कभी तबीयत खराब हो गई थी। ठीक है। आँखों में रेडिशपन हो रखा, इतनी आँखें दर्द हो रही, बहुत बहुत दर्द हो रखे पूरी। अच्छा। बस यही दिक्कत है, और तो मेरे को नहीं तो मेरे दर्द कुछ नहीं। यही तो टेंशन बहुत हो गई थी। बस भगवान जी से यही कहती हूँ, सब ठीक कर दो, हम नहीं जानते कहीं भी फंसा जाए। किसको दिक्कत बोले, हम किस मौजूद को नहीं जानते। राइट राइट, ठीक, चलो ठीक है, कोई बात नहीं, मैं देखता हूँ, ठीक है, ठीक ठीक।
So, dear doctors, this was the case. Actually, if you have listened this patient very carefully in this audio, the real problem of the patient is not her rheumatoid arthritis, because something else is going on the mind, something else has engrossed the mind of the patient, right? It's not the rheumatoid arthritis or the pain because of which she is unable to sleep. Rather, it is something else, more deeper, going in her mind, right? Which has been upsetting her, which has been making her sleepless, which has giving her a lot of pains, which is confusing her, right? So every damn thing is coming where from? Is the problem which is not at all his physical problem, right? So it's not always that the patient will talk about his physical problems, or right, or what is sickness going at the moment. So right problem of the patient, or we have to spot, right? So what if we listen to this, if you have listened to this video audio very clearly. Now the things are very categorically clear before us. What is the present of this patient, what he says and how he says, what she does and how she does. This formula is almost clear in this audio, and now we have to spot and analyze this case, right? So what is her present which persist and predominate, right? So how we shall reach the formula that is present which persist and predominate? The patient, whatever our patient has said, nothing from our side. We have listened to the patient. Now our observation should be very correct. It should be in the terms of the patient, right? What my patient said and how she said, right? What she does and how she does. These are the few lines which will clear everything, which will spot the information, the correct information, which is going very deep, right? Which has been affecting the patient health, right? So case analysis is nothing but it is to know about the patient perspective, about his problem, about his sickness, about whatever he has been going at the undergoing at the moment. Getting my point? So let us try to see what are the things we have to keep in our mind while analyzing the case. Yes. The first thing is the correct interpretation of the fact and observation. So, fact and observation is what you have listened to the patient. Observation doesn't mean that what you see, what you listen as well is the observation. So, you have listened to the case, you came to know about the fact, right? What are the real cause of the sickness? Patient very categorically said, right? So correct. Now what we have to do is interpretation, right? The interpretation means we have to understand these facts and observation in the terms of patient, right? Patient perspective, from the point of view of the patient. It's not doctor's point of view, it is not anybody else's point of view. It may not be a problem for a doctor, right? Right? But for the patient, this problem that of the repeated miscarriages of the daughter-in-laws is the problem, right? So we have to understand what happens with the miscarriages every time. Every time she is aggravated when there is a miscarriage or any mental tension that is coming just because of the repeated miscarriages in the family, right? So this is how we have to interpret. Then we have to we have to establish a relationship of the facts, what we are observing or what we are seeing or what our patient is telling to us. We have to establish what is the relation between these facts, right, to each other and their cause, right, with some rational, logical, and scientific explanation, right? there must be some reasons, some very good reason that why this information is connected with that, because our patient is the supreme, right? He is going, we are going to have the clear cut idea about the sickness of the patient, not from our point of view, rather from patient's point of view, which is always important and will help us at any point of the time during the case, right? And when we when we know the facts of the patient, right, when we know the when we observe the patient, when we explain them from the logical, scientific and rational point of view, then we are going to have what we want, that is what he says, what how he says, and what she does and how she does, and that will give us the whole idea and the insight into the patient, so history into the patient's, you can say the inside stuff of the patient will come out if we know all that, if we go or proceed in this way, right? So what my patient said, what is the problem of my patient, right, is the family tension, right? What family tension is, that is the recurrent, right, the repeated miscarriages happening in the family, to the first to the elder daughter-in-law, then to the younger daughter-in-law. What problem it gives to her, she is engrossed that how my family will propagate if there is no offspring. If you try to know the crux of the case, if you try to see what your patient, right, what your patient has been suffering from at the moment, is not rheumatoid arthritis at the moment, but it is the problem, that is how the family will propagate. His family is going to rather be finished, it is not going to exist anymore if there is no offspring. Getting my point? So this is what is the present which persist and predominate, right? Next, the evaluation, right? The information now we have to evaluate, which is the most important point. Again, the evaluation will depend upon how exact our case taking was, then how exact and precise our analysis is, and then we have to evaluate, right? Evaluate means we have to give the due value to each and every symptom, right, or the each and every feeling of the patient, right? The most important in this case, the feeling of the patient is how we can take hold of that, right? Again, here the patient's perspective, right? What evaluation means, right? While evaluating, we have to take capture of the generals of the patient, right? Because we treat the man, not the disease, right? So we have to know about the man. Where is the man? Man is in the mind, and mind is in the, what is the mind? Mind is the, you can say, the mirror image of what is going in the higher center, what pathology is going at the center, what pathology is going at the vital principle, right, is depicted or represented by the point. So we, when we take only the mind into consideration, that means all the way we are prescribing on the generals of the patient. What general does mean? General symptoms of the patient represent the man, right? Indirectly, you can say it represents the center, it represents the vital principle, which we have to stimulate with our simillimum, right? So evaluation, this is a very small case. You have listened a very small audio, right? So what is the most important going in this patient, right? It is as you have gone through this video, we shall now listen what the other aspect of this case is, right? That is the evaluation, right? So to do evaluate and then to put that feeling of the patient into the rubrics, right? That is the rubric formation, and thus constructing the totality, right? These are the few steps in short, you can say, right? So as to reach so as to select the similibus. So this is patient perspective once again, why our patient lays much emphasis on a few lines, that is the repeated abortion, the repeated miscarriages in the family is affecting her a lot, right? And that is the most important point. And what are the other most important point, that pain which she is having in her mind because of that miscarriage, right, of her daughter-in-law, right, that is giving her a lot of pain, making her confused where to go and where not to go, what is the solution of our problem, how I can solve this problem, otherwise the family is going to be punished, right? There are no offspring, and no, and that she want to exist, she want that her family should propagate, right, should have the offspring. So these are the feelings of the patient, right? So this inner feeling of the patient has to be converted into the rubric and into the totality, right? Totality is not the mere conversion of the language into the rubric. You can, but you are not going to have the result you are wanting, right? As you saw that the first and the second audio, no doubt they were very small. She was not getting the any sort of relief with that medicine given, right? So when I prescribe on this basis, we are going to see what basis it is, right? Let us see how to form the rubric then and the totality, right? So first of all, keeping the patient in our view, what the patient problem is, right, that is the most important, and that is what we are going to convert it into the rubrics, right, or going to form the totality, going to construct the totality, right, which will depict, which will establish the individualization of the patient, and then it will be very easy to prescribe upon. So let us convert the patient feeling which we have reached after taking the case, then analyzing the patient, then evaluating the things, right? Then now we shall confirm, we shall form the rubric, right? The first rubric that comes into our mind is, that is the main problem of the patient, that is delusion annihilation about to sink into, right? What she feels like, that my family is going to perish, it is not going to propagate. How it will propagate if repeated miscarriages are there, right? If no offspring is there, if no children, no propagation of the family, that means it is going, or the family or she is going to sink into an inhalation, right? So what is, let us try to understand this rubric. What is annihilation? To destroy something completely, to defeat, crush, or humiliate someone, especially in an argument, debate, sporting contest, etc., to cause to cease to exist, to do away with entirely so that nothing remains, to defeat overwhelmingly, right? So this is exactly the feeling of the patient, what is going in her mind, what has engrossed the patient, right? This is going in his mind. So this rubric is at the top, and it is a very, very important rubric. So rest, what is the other rubric? Next rubric, next word is sinking. Sinking means to fall or cause to fall and remain below the surface of water, either partially or completely. To collapse downwardly and inwardly, to fall because of collapsing base or foundation, to subside. So this is how we try to construct the rubrics, very logically, very scientifically, and very rationally. It's not mere language, it is the inner feeling, it is the center of the patient, right? This is what we need to prescribe upon, right? So if we join these two rubrics, right? Next is, she has been great suffering mentally and physically, right? Mentally, this problem is not leaving her, the problem is reoccurring, that is of the miscarriages of the daughter-in-law, and that aggravates. The same day she used to hear this news, right? She get aggravated. The pains are aggravated. She is terribly down. She is confined to bed. She is just pushed to the walls every time she this happens in her family, right? So these are the two rubrics, which is the crux of this patient, which is the inside stuff of the patient, right? Which will give us the remedy. So if we join these two rubric, right, it is calcarea curve, right? So when we what when we have to form the rubric, right, we have to go through this detail, right? Not it is not just mere the language you just came and the patient says like this and you convert it into the rubric, right? So first it might be something from within, that feeling of the patient from within, right? The rubric number one is the main problem, the main problem which has been upsetting her and her giving her a lot of sufferings mentally and physically, right? What, only single remedy, so two remedies are there in English, horrible things after hearing, right? What happened in my family? Oh, she has a she had a miscarriage. Oh my God! How my family will propagate? This is one. If you have to say in one line, this is the crux of the case. This is the gist of the case. You can say. So Pulcheria was given. Some more rubric are there. If you see the third rubric, she's in the dark, right? She's getting delirious in the dark. She feels that where I have to go. I know nobody where to go. What is the solution of my problem? How it will be solved? What medicine I have to take, or something else I have to do. So there she is getting delirious, right? She is crying. If you have to make only the rubric, that is, she may be, you can take the weeping with the pain, she is lamenting with the pain, or else whatever. Number of rubrics can be there, but they are the rubric. But we have to deal with the inside stuff of the patient, right? So these three rubrics, if we join all these three rubrics, we get the calcarea curve, and which was given to the patient, right? And let us see the result. What happened after giving the calcarea curve? I have then the patient was after taking calcarea, patient got able to come to my clinic. She came in person, and I am showing you the video. Try to listen. हाँ जी, बताइए आपकी क्या है?
मेरे को पैरों में फिर वही गांठें वाला वही खड़ा नहीं आया जा रहा है, इस पैर में चप्पल भी नहीं पहन जा रही। दर्द इन नसों में, कलाइयों में बहुत दर्द है। इधर भी गोली पे भी गांठ आ रही है।
उतना ही हो गया जितना पहले?
इधर पैरों पर इतना तो वही है सेम, पूरा नीचे नीचे।
और जो कमर में था?
हाँ, कमर का।
If you see this patient now, she is in person there. I recorded a video. Now see how the voice of the patient is changed, right? She's not in not that agony now. She's much better, right? And no doubt she is complaining about the pains, right? But just try to observe that the pains, what was in the upper part of the body, down, right? They came to the back, then from back they are going to the knees, then from knees to the feet, right? So they are following Dr. Hering's law of cure, right? From above downward, from within outward, right? So listen to the patient.
इतना तो वही है सेम, पूरा नीचे नीचे।
और जो कमर में था?
हाँ, कमर वाले में आराम है।
बाकी जो
कल बहुत ज्यादा बढ़ गया था दर्द। तो फिर मैंने कहा कल तो दवाई लेने जाना है, इसलिए मैंने फिर फोन करा, मैंने कल तो लाऊं।
फिर कैसे ठीक हुआ आज?
यही मेरे को ये लगता, पता नहीं क्या दर्द घूमता रहता लगता है शरीर में। जैसे मतलब 2-3 घंटे में दर्द नहीं होता, 2-3 घंटे में वो चीज ठीक हो जाएगी, दूसरी जगह दर्द हो जाता है। ऐसे कल मेरे इससे घुटने से और इसमें बहुत दिक्कत थी। घुटने का सही है, नीचे नीचे पैरों में बहुत दिक्कत हो रही है सुबह से।
तो वैसे इन दिनों में जैसे कोई दिमाग में टेंशन तो नहीं है, ज्यादा प्रेशर तो नहीं?
अभी तो ठीक
है। कोई परेशानी नहीं
ना
ऐसी?
ना कुछ भी नहीं अभी सब कुछ है।
पहले जैसे जितना बहुत परेशान थी आप,
हाँ,
फिर
पहले-
2-3 बार आप बहुत परेशान हुई थी, उतना अब तो नहीं?
नहीं ऐसा तो अभी तो जब फायदा होगी तो कोई टेंशन नहीं है, सही
अच्छा।
चल रहा है।
अच्छा, जैसे जब बहुत ही ज़्यादा मतलब बहुत सबसे ज़्यादा जिस दिन दर्द थी, आपने टेलीफोन पर
हाँ,
बात करी
किया।
थी, तो वो दर्द जो वैसा तो फिर कभी आया?
नहीं ऐसा तो नहीं। बस ये कल हुआ था दर्द मेरे, तो कल पूरी रात मतलब दिक्कत रही थी। सवेरे उठी थी तो फिर कोई घुटने का दर्द बिल्कुल ठीक ठाक मिला मुझे, और यहाँ का बड़ा मिला पैरों का, उठने से मेरे कल बिल्कुल नहीं चला जा रहा था। तो एक दिन की सब पैर की चल गई और मैं बहुत दर्द था।
और जो उस टाइम जैसे दिमाग में ये बात चल रही थी, जो था ना कि कैसे होगा आगे, कैसे चलेगा परिवार, ये हो जो भी था, बहुत परेशान थी आप?
नहीं तो ऐसा कुछ नहीं समझती।
दवाई देने के बाद वो कितनी देर तक उस चीज ने आपको तंग किया ऐसे? जैसे आपने दवाई भेजी आपके लिए, एक दिन की ही भेजी थी, तो दूसरे दिन खैर आप आई भी थी, तो उस
दवाई मतलब ठीक हो जब तक मतलब मेरा दर्द रहता है ना, तब तक मेरे दिमाग में बातें घूमती है। जब तक मेरे को बहुत ज्यादा दिक्कत रहती है, मतलब रोती भी हूँ, तब भी मतलब बार बार ऐसे क्यों होता है, तब वो घूम जब मतलब दर्द ठीक हो जाता है सब कुछ भूल जाती है।
वो बात नहीं सुनती?
नहीं फिर ठीक हो जाता है ना दर्द, फिर कुछ नहीं, फिर बस फिर ये करती हूँ।
जैसे उस दिन आपने बताया था कि ये सारा मेरा दिमाग ही ऑक्यूपाई कर लिया इसने, मतलब और कुछ आ ही नहीं रहा दिमाग में,
उस दिन तो बहुत ज्यादा मतलब दिमाग में रिमाइंडर से चल रहा।
तो अब मतलब जैसे दर्द है, जैसे कल आपको दर्द हुई, तो अब ऐसी कोई बात आती है ना?
मतलब जैसे उस टाइम पहले बहुत दिक्कत थी, तो उस टाइम पे तो मतलब मेरे को ये लगा रहता था वापसी क्यों आ गई, मतलब पहले की बातें सोच सोच के ज्यादा बहुत टेंशन रहती थी। मैं अच्छी खासी ठीक हो गई थी, मतलब चलना फिरना सब कुछ करती थी, पीछे की बातें भी याद करती रहती थी।
वो तो 4-5 साल पहले की बात कर रहे हैं ना, काफी पहले की बात।
हाँ वही बातें फिर मतलब मेरे दिमाग में वही बातें आती थी, जो बहुत साल पहले मेरी हालत बहुत खराब हो गई थी जब आपने उठाया था। भगवान ही, मैं तो आपको भगवान ही मानती हूँ इस तरीके से। तो मतलब वो बातें मेरे याद रहती थी कि ये मतलब बीमारी जब मेरी ठीक हो गई थी, बीच में मेरा बंद हो गया था, ये दोबारा क्यों आई, मतलब ये बातें ज्यादा चलती थी दिमाग में। अच्छा अच्छा। और पता
तो नहीं
क्या नहीं, अब तो खैर नहीं, मुझे तो भाई है तो जैसे पहले ठीक हुई थी भगवान जी फिर दोबारा करेंगे।
लेकिन मतलब उस बात को भी 10-15 दिन हो गए जब आपको दवाई दी थी, तो ये बीच में जैसे ये जो 15 दिनों में आपने काम करना, घूमना फिरना, इधर उधर जाना, घर के काम जो होते हैं कर रहे?
तो जैसे ठीक रहती हूँ तो काम तो खैर नहीं करती, धीरे धीरे थोड़ा सा चलती सकती हूँ, जब बिल्कुल लगता है मेरे को आज मैं ठीक हूँ फिर कर लेती हूँ थोड़ा बहुत काम।
राइट। और कोई दिमाग में बात?
नहीं अभी तो ठीक चल रहा हूँ, कुछ नहीं समझती।
Now, from this video, it is very clear that the medicine was given was the for the patient, right, for the mind, right. So she is free from that problem, which was in the mind of the patient, right. No doubt, the pains are still there. They do come and they go, right. They are going very orderly, but the patient is free from his state of mind of that she was having earlier, right? No such kind of feeling. I had to make her remind why time and again in the video. Did you have that feeling again? Did you have that feeling again? She is not coming to that point, right? So that feeling has gone, right? That the inside what was the pathology going at the center is gone, no more there, right. So that is what we have to treat, that is what we have to do, that is how we have to form the rubric. And the totality doesn't mean correct collecting the number of signs and symptoms, right. One symptom can be, one rubric can be the totality, whereas the pages and pages of the symptoms is useless, as written by Dr. Kent, right. So what, when we proceed in this way, very logical, scientific and rational way, and we have to, for each and every case we have to go through this process of what I have discussed with you, right. Taking, right, then correct observation, then analysis of the case, which should be very done on the very logical ground, right. And at nowhere or at any step of the case, the patient perspective might not be underestimated or overlooked. That is very important, right? So as you have seen, it is very easy when you understand the case, right? When you understand or you bring out the inside of the patient, then forming rubric, then forming the totality is nothing, right? It's few symptoms only, and the symptoms or the rubrics you are going to have, then really you will find that majority of the time you will find kind of rubrics having one or two medicine against them, and then very easy to differentiate. So I did with the case, and we have some more rubrics in this case, right? So Annie, case then 1 minute. So some more rubrics we have in the case we can have as a supporting rubrics. We can see here supporting rubrics are delirium pains from she's no doubt she's in the case, she's very much in the delirium. Calcaria's feeling is when she's down, she's pushed to the wall, she feels like that I have been pushed to the, I have been dashed like anything. She has been struck very powerfully, right? This is the feeling of the patient. Right? Right. Delusion tumble he would be. Tumble means again to fall down very forcibly. Next. Delusion ruined she is. And again, this is a very strong rubric in the patient. Next. Right. So these are the few sporting rubrics from the patient's history, and that is all about this case. That is how we have to make the rubric. It is not just a dry conversion of the language into the repertorial language. These are actually when the center is upset, right? When there is disturbances at the center, right? And they are signaled out by the patient, right, in the form of sign and symptoms, which we have to convert, which are meaningful sign and symptoms are to be converted into the totality, into the rubric, so as to prescribe the minimum, right? So that's all about this case. Now we can have some more things. That is, if you have any question, can we?
Thank you so much, sir. That was a very insightful webinar, and we got to learn a lot from you. So we are highly obliged that you gave us your time and so much knowledge. If anybody has any questions, we are open to taking your questions. Um
Next, something I would like to tell you that I am going to have a one-day seminar on 24th of September at India International Center. So anybody who is interested, it's an offline seminar, can come there, and you can give your questions if any question is there. So we have some time.
Thank you,
Yes,
sir. People have been asking if this recording would be available. So yes, this recording would be available to all of you of
yes.
this webinar, and you can ask any questions at the offline seminar that sir is going to hold on 24th September at India International Center.
So otherwise, you can send me your questions if here you are unable to put. So some questions are there. If you can read out. No, it's not Karamjit, it's not groping as if in the dark. That is, once again, if you just convert the mere language into the rubric, then you will have many rubrics like this, right? It is not, this is not the right way. You have to first take hold of the patient's insight. That is the vital principle, how our vital principle is affected. ailments from cares, worries, delusion, injured being. No, no, these are very superficial rubrics. Weeping pains with, yes, this is what I was telling. When you will, unless you penetrate into the case, right? Unless you take hold of the center, you can't make the right rubrics. So it is really an art. It is not a mechanical thing. Anticipation, anxiety about future. It can be. These are the very peripheral rubrics. DDCPS. CPS is nowhere in the rubrics, right? Fear superstitious. No, 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 no. Far away. Superstitious. No. Fear superstitious. These are the things, that is what we have to learn. We have to go very logical, right? Our patient very directly states that this is my problem, this is my problem, right? You, every patient does like this, right? What we do is, where the problem is, actually what we know, we try to fit the patient there, right? So try to take the patient in the terms of that rubric, what is our mind, what is in our mind already, right? The potency was given was 6 first time, and then I have a number of other follow-ups. She was given 30 as well, right? Then any other question? She was not superstitious, right? Many of the participant has written about the rubric superstitious. It is not baseless. Things happened, right?
People have also questioned about delusion, taking delusion as a rubric. So, if you
So,
could explain
yeah,
that.
actually, you are confusing with the superstitious rubric. It is the delusion, in fact, right? She has a perception, rather a false perception, that how my family will propagate then if I don't, if the things that is of miscarriage keep on happening or keep on repeating in my family. So it is a delusion that his family is going to extinct, right? She feels like that she is going to be annihilated from this world, right? She feels like that my family will not propagate if there are no offspring. On the contrary, this is a, rather you can say, it's a reasonable thing. Calcaria is objective reasonable as well if you go to the complete and Murphy's repertory, right? It is not a superstition, right?
So next, Dr. Amya Goswami wants to know if you would like to recommend any book or any recording, any YouTube videos or study material for learning mind symptoms, how to take mind
Okay.
symptoms as rubrics. So if
Yeah.
you have any books in.
Yeah. There are a number of books written by Dr. M.L. Sagalji, right? We have ROH series, Rediscovery of Homeopathy, right? Written by Dr. M.L. Sagal. Then Dr. Sanjay Sagal and Dr. Yogesh Sagal has written a number of books. They are available in the market, and time to time we are holding the seminars on as well. It was a webinar till now, but now we are going offline as well.
So next, there are several people who want to again see the details of the seminar that you're going to hold on
Yeah.
24th September. If you could share that screen, please.
Yeah, sure. One.
So everyone, Sir has shared his screen, which tells you about his seminar. Many people have been asking for registration and everything. So the details are on your screen. You can note them down, and Sir will be available on 24th September 2023 for any questions regarding this webinar or any of your queries that you have from Sir.
Yeah, the phone number is given, and you can have this phone number and ask any query, right?
Dr. Shubhangi wants to know how can we attend your regular seminar. So, Sir just told you we have the phone number on your screens. You can note down the phone number and contact
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
regarding any of your queries.
Okay. I will just share my personal number, right? As well, if you have any inquiry, then want to share anything with me, my phone number is In the chat, you can check it, right? This is my phone number. Now there will be regular classes and seminars offline and maybe online as well. But be in touch. My number is there, and here the number contact number is written, so you can be in touch with this number. Anything else? Anybody? Any question? Illusion tumble meaning Ravi. Tumble means to fall down very forcibly down, so you are unable to get up, right? So if you want to remember the criteria in short, this is a very interesting thing by which you can. We have a nursery poem that is called Humpty Dumpty had a great fall, right? The whole poem conveys the Kilkiria Kav in very, you can say, it is very easy to remember. If you remember that poem, you can feel the Kilkiria. Okay, Ravi? Any more questions? So, okay, I'm very grateful to the VGen team and really obliged to share their platform, and maybe in short future looking forward to have all this kind of webinars once again. And thank you so much everyone, you have given your valuable time. I am grateful to everyone. Thank you all.